afternoon, or good evening, whenever you are watching this. Could be morning, good morning. My name is John Dearstyne. I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. I decided to do my presentation on COVID 19 and the challenges Black and Brown people are facing right now. The COVID 19 data that you see on this chart right here is coming out of cities and states that paint a bleak picture for Black and Latino residents. In Chicago, a city that has 30% Black people and around 70% of the people who have died from COVID 19 are African American. In Milwaukee County, it's 81% of the deaths. Many frontline staff who have shown up at work in person every day are disproportionately Black and Latino. Dr. Stephen B. Thompson, director of the Maryland Center for Health Equity, stated, "Who do I see out there working? Black and Brown people. If they stay home, they don't eat." The Black and Brown communities are being forced to pick whether they should stay inside and not get paid or risk their lives to bring back food for their families. These communities already have a disproportionate share of high blood pressure, asthma, diabetes, and obesity, which makes them more susceptible to the virus. So what's my central question? My central question is why Black and Brown people face challenges when trying to find jobs. So there's three things we already know. One, Black and Brown people already lower in numbers compared to white people when getting hired. Number two, Black and Brown people either struggle to keep their jobs or find one due to biases. Number three, if you are illegal, it is probably already harder to find a job. So for my first example, I chose Color of COVID. CNN anchor Don Lemon and political commentator Van Jones hosted the Color of COVID, an hour-long special on the unique challenges Black and Brown communities are facing during the coronavirus crisis, putting a spotlight on their struggles and providing viewers the ways they could help. Color COVID, the racial justice paradox of our new stay-at-home economy. March unemployment rate was highest for Black people at 6.7%. The rate was 6% for Latinx and the lowest for white Americans at 4%. Essential workers largely can't work from home. They include not only doctors and other frontline workers, but also blue-collar workers such as grocery cashiers, delivery workers, bus drivers, mail carriers, and warehouse workers. For example, Amazon, although they are profiting from the pandemic, many of their newer, low-skilled workers who are essential to the day-to-day success of Amazon will likely be people of color, because Black and Brown people continue to be disproportionately represented in lower-skilled and lower-paid jobs, at the bottom rung grasping at broken ladders of opportunity. Amazon reported that at December 31st, 2019, 26.5% of the U.S. workforce was Black and 18.5% was Latinx, compared to 34% who were white. A far greater percentage of each weighed against their representation in the general U.S. population. At the managerial level, the mismatch is flipped. 59.3% of Americans' U.S. managers are white, while a measly 8.3% are Black and only 8.1% are Latinx. The racial disparity is in part attributable to Black and Brown workers' relative lack of the social capital and networks that are stepping stones into the middle class. But these definitions themselves are byproducts of Americans' long legacy of discrimination and inequality. Another example would be Uber. Their Black workers make up about 9.3% of the company's total workforce and only 3.3% of leadership positions. But nearly 60% of the leadership positions are held by white employees who make up about 45% of the total workforce. For example 2, I will be showing Latinx and COVID-19. More than 65% of Hispanics have lost their jobs or suffered a significant reduction in their incomes as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The figures come from a new poll commissioned by Somos Community Care, a physician-led network of doctors in New York City that serves low-income minorities and immigrant communities. Henry Munoz, the former DNC finance chair and founder of Somos, said his hopes is that the poll organizes Latinos to speak up, register for the census, and to vote, and call members of Congress because it is not right that the Recovery Act doesn't include undocumented immigrants. Matt Barreto, Latino's Decision pollster and co-founder, said, I think what the poll exposes is that for a long time there has been structural inequality in our economy and Latinos have been one paycheck away from their financial stability falling apart. For my third example, I'll be going an article that I found by Professor Bina Kandola. It's called Racism's Old and New. Professor Bina Kandola explores racism today and finds that it's still thriving in organizations and ourselves. When submitting an application, some applications fall into a gray area, for example, when they are neither obviously excellent nor poor. In such circumstances, minority candidates are less likely to be given the benefit of the doubt. There are no clear policies in place, and leaders do not appear to make diversity and fairness a priority. The experiment that she showed was she put two gentlemen, Muhammad and Adam, to get callbacks. Adam scored 3 times more callbacks for interviews than Muhammad strictly because of his name. Now, why should managers or people in general care about this issue? Well, for one, a well-managed, diverse group of employees are more committed. Having a higher collective intelligence, they excel at making better decisions and solving problems better. Reason 2, leaders who don't address their diversity failings will be missing out on hiring and retaining top talent and will not survive technological upheaval. Reason 3, less diversity and upward movements of black and browns in the workplace create barriers. These realities don't just create barriers over time, they wear people down. Now, what are some of the causes? Cause 1, today workers of colors are overrepresented in the lowest paid agricultural, domestic, and service locations and have at least the least job security. Many of these workers, including restaurants and retail workers, have already been laid off due to public health guidance. Cause number 2, undocumented immigrants, unlike many American workers, can't count on social safety net if they lose their jobs or get sick. Most do not have health insurance or access to paid sick leave, putting them and the people they encounter at risk. Most aren't eligible for unemployment insurance or the cash payment included in the $2 trillion relief package Congress passed last month, even if they pay taxes or the children are U.S. citizens. Undocumented immigrants are afraid to seek help due to the fear of either being discovered and then being deported. For cause number 3, people of color often face outright discrimination in the labor market. They are also less likely to attend and graduate from college, which stems from the fact that African Americans or Latinx face greater financial barriers to getting a college education, which end up with more debt if they do go to college than white graduates and paying more off their loans. Yet even among college graduates, people of color often face greater job instability and higher unemployment rates, as the data is shown here. So what is the solution? So the solution I came up with, it informs corporations of the responsibility they have to their employees and communities, especially during situations that are out of everyone's control, such as this pandemic. The book inspires discussion about care, welfare, and society, and questions how care and welfare are organized in the country. So, what are steps that managers can take that would help Black and brown people thrive during this pandemic? There's 2 steps that I've came across. Everyone is affected by the coronavirus, but dramatically in different ways. The response to this crisis must therefore take an approach in the form of target universalism. This approach accounts for nuances of how different groups are being affected by the pandemic to create policies that are targeted each group based on their particular needs, while also that we're all in, but also showing that we're all in this together. The second one is making it financially possible for people to stay home by expanding economic assistance programs, easing debt burdens, and protecting against predatory lending and employment discrimination. And that is it for my presentation.